Thank you for joining me here on Disciple Armory. Today, we're going to continue talking about the current state of our country and what our appropriate response needs to be to current events. Since the passing of Charlie Kirk, there have been other violent incidents, including the most recent one this Wednesday at the ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. I have some pointed words that too many folks in the Christian community have shied away from for many years. And I believe it's time that we speak out about what we believe and the direction we want to see this country go. The biggest issue in our country is the absence of God. This isn't to say that God is totally absent from our nation. I believe that He's speaking today louder than ever. But it is a fact that from where this country began with the Founding Fathers to where it is today, it has gone a long way from God. Let me lay it out some. The Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. The Constitution was signed in 1787. 29 or more of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence had Christian theological training. Now the schools. The first public schools in America were established by Puritan colonists in the 17th century to ensure children could read the Bible and learn Puritan values. Yet, by 1963, the Supreme Court ruled in Abington School District versus Skemp that the daily reading of the Bible and the Lord's Prayer in public schools, whether for religious or literary purposes, was unconstitutional. In approximately 60 years, we have gone from a population that at the very least had some context to biblical values to one that praises, encourages, and pushes destructive ideologies that are destroying this nation from the inside. Parents no longer educate their children, but expect state-funded schools to do the job for them. The devil, being crafty, has ensured that a vast majority of educators also have no biblical ground and push radical ideologies on children as young as preschool. Yet today, as we face one of the biggest tragedies this country has ever seen with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there are those who would say that Christianity has failed this nation. To this I say, what a load of garbage. When our parents and grandparents have pushed God out of their lives and the schools that taught their children, they don't get to say that God has failed. These are the fruits of a nation that has turned their back on God. There are those in this country that love the benefits of living in what is still at least known to be a predominantly Christian nation, but want none of the responsibility. They want more nudity on TV, but still want healthy marriages. They want their sons to be men, but don't want to invest the time and effort to be fathers. They want faithful wives, but encourage their daughters to dress in skimpy outfits. We can go on listing. It's virtually endless. Where do you think morality comes from, if not the Bible? Contrary to what is taught in public schools today, it is not a relative societal construct, whatever the popular norm happens to be today. Relativism has corrupted the very concept of objective truth. Kids are encouraged to believe that they can be animals if they choose to believe it and force everyone else to play along. This is insanity. But without an objective moral standard outside of sinful man, this is what we get. It is clear that one political party in this country is in large part responsible for removing God and making debauchery the standard of our modern society. It's also clear where the very real political violence is coming from. The scales aren't even close to being balanced on this. Yet, even more among the ranks of conservatives, we have many of those who fall into the same category of wanting the benefits of a Christian society, but also wanting nothing in the way of the responsibility. You cannot have one without the other. Now, to the main audience in the room, the churches, and specifically the pastors. Are you speaking about political topics and current events in your church? Are you talking about how we should rule and run our God-given nation? Have you bought into the separation of church and state lie? Have you been using it as an excuse to not address sin in your congregation? It's time to reevaluate your shepherding. Avoiding difficult topics and not addressing the issues of the time does not make you somehow more spiritual. It's not a badge of honor. It just makes you useless as a shepherd in our society. If God did not call you to pastor, then close your church's doors. If you have neglected your calling, then fix it now and get back to preaching truth and confronting sin. I also have something to say to those leaving and threatening to leave their churches because the pastor did not sufficiently address Charlie's passing to their liking. I don't know your church, and I don't know your pastor. But if your response is to leave anytime your pastor or church leadership does something that you don't like, then you're being a spoiled baby. Pastors are human. They make mistakes, and they don't run their churches on your whim. Spend more time serving and less time complaining. We in the West treat churches like going to the salad bar. It's a rotten attitude and it must stop. You should prayerfully ask God where you should be planted and not leave unless God Himself releases you. Pastors can't hope to raise up mature congregations if the people just leave anytime they get bent out of shape about anything. Now, there are rotten churches and there are rotten pastors. So if God is showing you that on the whole your church has failed in their calling and you need to leave, then obey the voice of God. But don't confuse that with the spirit of offense. If you leave because you are offended, then you are leaving for the wrong reason. My church got into talking politics early. This was very unpopular and was one of the reasons we lost many members. Churchgoers across the nation have spent decades treating church as a social club to stoke their egos and make them feel good. And the pastors figured out an easy way to keep the funds flowing without having to confront anyone about their sin. We have reached a critical point where this must stop, or we will lose more than just a country. We will lose our children. There's over a century of garbage that pastors and church leaders need to lead the charge in educating out of their congregations and the nation as a whole. This does not fall to secular institutions, but to the church. Pastors must address the issues affecting their congregations. There are spiritual demonic forces behind every sort of sin. This includes abortion, gender confusion, homosexuality, and violent fantasies. These are things literally killing people today. As pastors, we must be ready to confront these forces head on to save lives and souls. Otherwise, what good are you? Too many. The church has become a joke, and God's name is mocked among the nations because too many pastors are too busy counting tithes and attendance records instead of teaching on things that matter now, today, and not just feel-good sermons. Christianity is not what's not effective. It is lukewarm pastors and churches that do nothing for God's kingdom and our society. Kindness is great. Feeding the poor is super. But none of that matters if we neglect our own children and send them off into the modern liberal world with nothing to take with them but the roll of the dice, hoping they won't be radicalized by some hypersexualized professor teaching on gender studies instead of training them for their vocation. Isn't it interesting how the devil is more than happy to teach our children about the topics the churches avoid? Today, our country has the opportunity to change course and again walk towards God. The nation that conservatives and even some traditional Democrats want to live in requires that we turn to God and base all of our decisions on Him at the center. Having a little God is not going to suffice, just as the church being a little political isn't going to cut it. Either God is the center and the church is fully involved in the political process, or our country will see its final days as the United States of America. Let's not mince words. Criminals must be punished. Grieving widows must be given justice. Letting criminals back on the street is not justice. Pedophiles and groomers must not be allowed to teach our children. They must be forced out of our schools. There is no freedom of speech protection to those contributing to the delinquency of minors. Okay? Doctors must be held responsible for the medicines and vaccines they prescribe. Politicians shouldn't be spending their entire life getting wealthy from backdoor deals, and pastors certainly shouldn't be living in multi-million-dollar mansions and driving supercars if they're being paid by the tithes of their congregations. Many on the left would call this violence, but this is in fact the peaceful way forward. This words are violence nonsense must stop. It only perpetuates real violence that we are now seeing so much of lately in the news. Many on the left and some on the right say they are fed up and are done talking and just want to go to battle, not with words, but with a gun. This is not the way forward. There are plenty of us who are ready to defend our families with lethal force. If the day ever comes, we are prepared and ready to go at a moment's notice. We train, we prepare, and hope the day never comes when we have to use deadly force as a way to protect those we love and care about. One thing I never want to do is to bring such force against my neighbor. That is civil war, neighbor against neighbor. And like most wars, it is not fought by middle-aged men flapping their lips and inciting violence on the internet. It will be fought by the fit and the young, by our children. Promoting war inside of our nation is not patriotic, it's not heroic, it is not helpful to our cause, and it usually comes from fools who have never served their country in any meaningful capacity. Political violence must be eradicated from our culture. If you are at your keyboard glorifying the killing of political opponents or making speeches to the nation to incite the populace into a rage, you are part of the problem. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. That kind of talk makes you lower than dirt in my book. No soldier who has ever defended our country against enemies foreign and domestic is ever going to give you a pat on the back. If you're living in a sadistic dystopian fantasy land, you need to stop listening to the demons and seek help. America survived one civil war, it will not survive another. And on the topic of war, our enemies are uniting against us more than ever since World War II. Do you think that Russia, China, North Korea, South Africa, Iran, and many others aren't chomping at the bit to see the United States destroy itself so they can take our place on the world stage? Or worse yet, just come and finish us off while we're distracted at our weakest? Of course they are. Let's not play into their hand. So here's what this is not. This is not a call to unity with the radical left. We will not extend an olive branch to anyone who contributes to the delinquency of our children and the erosion of a God-fearing society. There is no unity with those who celebrate murder, and I am including abortion in this. There is no compromise with that sort of thing. Nor is there any place among us for those who promote or believe that political violence on any level is acceptable. Any such person should be shunned to the fringes of our society as a reminder to all that we are not a nation of murderers. If our values and beliefs cannot be defended on their own merit, then we are not doing a good enough job teaching them. If you're lacking in knowledge or otherwise incapable of expressing yourself without violence, sit down and get educated until you can become a contributing member of our society. If you need counseling, please go get it from a Christian counselor or pastor who cares about you enough to tell you the truth, not coddle you to death. It's time for men and women to be courageous in their roles as guardians and educators of their families. I will leave it at this. This country cannot treat Christianity as something that has been tried and then thrown out because it didn't work. It was thrown out of the political and public arena because people love their sin more than they love their Creator. It's time to bring God back as the front and center of our nation, and for all of us to take responsibility for our walk with Him and to be the guardians and teachers of our kids once again. Only then will our country be the safe and great place that we all dream of living in. Thank you for everyone who has taken the time to listen. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Don't wait until tomorrow. Pick up your cross and start your fight today. I'll see you next time on Disciple Armor.